The sons of Mosiah in the Book of Mormon faced a real challenge.
Yeah.
Spreading a message of faith to people who not only rejected it, but were known for being hostile.
Right.
We're going to be looking at Alma chapter 17 today.
Oh.
And their journey is all about faith and perseverance and courage.
And courage.
Who are these sons of Mosiah?
Well, they were royalty, sons of King Mosiah, and they'd already had a profound experience with the divine.
Oh, wow.
Alma chapter 17, verse 2 tells us they were actually with Alma when an angel first appeared to him.
Wow.
It's clear this experience really impacted them.
And their dedication to their faith was remarkable.
Oh, yeah.
They didn't just dabble in religion, they lived it. The scriptures tell us they spent years studying the scriptures, praying and fasting.
Yeah, they were serious about their faith.
Then comes this pivotal moment.
Okay.
Verse 6, they're offered the kingship, their father's throne.
Wow.
And they turn it down.
It's a decision that speaks volumes about their values.
Yeah.
They chose spiritual purpose over worldly power.
Wow.
They felt a higher calling to share the gospel, and that's what they dedicated their lives to.
So in verse 7, we see them preparing for their mission, gathering supplies, swords, spears, bows, arrows, slings.
But it's not for conquest.
Okay.
It's for survival.
Gotcha.
They're headed into the wilderness.
Into Lamanite territory. And that wasn't exactly friendly territory.
Right.
It's fascinating how they approached this mission.
I know.
They knew they couldn't do it alone. Verse 9 describes their fervent prayers, asking for the Lord's Spirit to be with them, to guide them and strengthen them.
And the Lord answers.
Oh, wow.
Yes. Verse 10 states, "And it came to pass that the Lord did visit them with his Spirit and said unto them, Be comforted." And they were comforted.
They had faith, and the Lord honored that faith.
He did.
Now, when you think about the Lamanites, as they're described in verse 14, it's clear they were a force to be reckoned with, a wild and a hardened and a ferocious people, a people who delighted in murdering the Nephites and robbing and plundering them.
Yeah, they weren't exactly a welcoming committee.
No, they weren't.
The scriptures say their hearts were set on material wealth, gold and silver and precious stones.
Verse 14.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they wanted to acquire these things through violence and plunder, not honest work.
Right.
Verse 15 tells us that they were a very indolent people, many of whom did worship idols, and the curse of God had fallen upon them because of the traditions of their fathers. The sons of Mosiah were going into a challenging situation, to say the least.
So how do you even begin to reach a people like that?
Right.
It's amazing to me that the sons of Mosiah didn't just turn around and say, this is impossible.
Well, they had such unwavering faith. In verse 16, we see their purpose clearly stated. Therefore, this was the cause for which the sons of Mosiah had undertaken the work, that perhaps they might bring them unto repentance, that perhaps they might bring them to know of the plan of redemption.
Wow.
They believed in the power of the Lord's word to transform even the hardest of hearts.
And their approach was strategic.
It was.
In verse 13, it describes how upon reaching Lamanite territory, they separated themselves and departed one from another, trusting in the Lord that they should meet again at the close of their harvest.
Each of them went out alone.
Wow.
Relying solely on their faith and conviction.
Yeah.
It was a leap of faith, a bold move, especially considering the dangers. Verse 17 emphasizes how they each went their separate way, empowered by the word and power of God, which was given unto him.
It's inspiring to see how they trusted in the Lord's plan.
One of the most well-known sons of Mosiah is Ammon. His story is particularly remarkable. He ventured into the land of Ishmael, a place named after the descendants of Ishmael who had also become Lamanites.
And his arrival was anything but peaceful.
No, it wasn't.
Verse 20 tells us that the Lamanites captured him, bound him, as was their custom with any Nephite they encountered.
Right.
Now, Ammon's fate rested in the hands of King Lamoni, a king known for his harsh treatment of Nephites.
Imagine being in that position, completely at the mercy of someone hostile to your people.
It must have been terrifying.
Yet in that moment, Ammon's faith doesn't waver.
Yeah.
It's remarkable.
It really is. When King Lamoni questions Ammon about his intentions, as described in verse 23, Ammon boldly replies, "Yea, I desire to dwell among this people for a time, yea, and perhaps until the day I die."
He could have pleaded for freedom,
right,
but instead he chooses to stay among the very people who captured him.
What a statement.
His courage and faith must have intrigued King Lamoni.
Yeah.
Because instead of punishing Ammon, the king releases him.
Wow.
He even offers Ammon one of his daughters to marry.
Wow.
as we see in verse 24.
Okay.
It's a dramatic shift from capture to potential marriage.
It is. But Ammon, true to his mission, politely declines the offer.
Yeah.
In verse 25, he tells the king, "Nay, but I will be thy servant."
And that's how Ammon's journey takes this unique turn.
Wow.
He enters the Lamanite court not as a prince, but as a servant.
What humility.
It's easy to see how that would resonate with people.
Yeah.
He's assigned to tend the king's flocks.
Uh-huh.
A task that might seem beneath a prince, but Ammon sees it as an opportunity.
He's not just tending sheep. He's tending hearts.
Right.
He's building relationships and earning trust, living his faith in a way that speaks louder than words.
And this seemingly simple assignment leads to a truly remarkable display of Ammon's faith and courage.
After just 3 days in the king's service, Ammon and the other servants are driving the flocks to the water of Sebus.
It's described in verse 27, a place where all the Lamanites gathered their flocks to drink.
But then suddenly a group of Lamanites stood and scattered the flocks of Ammon and the servants of the king, and they scattered them insomuch that they fled many ways.
It's a scene of chaos.
The other servants are terrified.
Yeah.
They think they're going to be killed for failing to protect the king's flocks.
Their fear is understandable.
Yeah.
In verse 28, we hear their despair. Now the servants of the king began to murmur, saying, "Now the king will slay us, as he has our brethren, because their flocks were scattered by the wickedness of these men."
They're bracing for the worst.
But Ammon doesn't panic.
He sees opportunity in this chaos.
Yeah.
He sees a chance to demonstrate his faith in a way that will capture the attention of the Lamanites.
He does. In verse 29, we see his thoughts. "I will show forth my power unto these my fellow servants, or the power which is in me in restoring these flocks unto the king, that I may win the hearts of these my fellow servants, that I may lead them to believe in my words."
He's not just trying to protect his fellow servants. He's trying to open their hearts to the gospel.
And his actions are both strategic and courageous.
He calms the other servants and encourages them to help him gather the scattered flocks, as described in verse 31.
They follow his lead, amazed by his confidence.
Then comes the real test of his faith, the confrontation.
Exactly. As they are gathering the flocks, the same group of Lamanites returns.
Okay.
They're intent on scattering the flocks again.
Okay.
But Ammon stands his ground.
Wow.
He instructs his fellow servants to encircle the flocks and protect them while he faces their attackers.
Just picture that scene. A single young man facing a group of hostile Lamanites determined to protect the king's flocks.
It's a testament to his unwavering faith.
It is. Verse 36 describes how he stood forth and began to cast stones at them with his sling. Yea, with mighty power he did sling stones amongst them, and thus he slew a certain number of them, insomuch that they began to be astonished at his power.
His skill is incredible, almost superhuman.
Yeah.
He strikes down several attackers, leaving the rest astonished and enraged.
Their astonishment quickly turns to anger.
It does.
They rush at him, trying to overpower him. And that's where we see a truly awe-inspiring display of divine protection.
It's a pivotal moment. Verse 37 tells us that every man that lifted his club to smite Ammon, he smote off their arms with his sword, for he did withstand their blows by smiting their arms with the edge of his sword, insomuch that they began to be astonished and began to flee before him.
It's a feat of incredible skill and strength. But more importantly,
Yeah.
it's a clear demonstration of the Lord's promise to protect his servants.
It's almost like that verse we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
Verse 11, where the Lord tells the sons of Mosiah, "Go forth among the Lamanites, thy brethren, and establish my word. I will make an instrument of thee in my hands unto the salvation of many souls."
It takes on a whole new meaning in light of this event.
It does. Ammon's actions aren't merely acts of bravery. They're divinely guided. A testament to the power of faith to achieve the impossible.
Wow.
And the impact of this event is profound. It not only saves the king's flocks, but also leaves the Lamanites utterly bewildered and terrified.
Right.
They've never witnessed such a display of power and precision.
This event marks a turning point in Ammon's mission.
It does.
A moment that
Yeah.
opens the door to sharing the gospel with the Lamanites in a way he could never have imagined.
Yeah.
It shows how the Lord can work through seemingly ordinary circumstances. Ammon's humility, his willingness to serve, his courage, all these qualities paved the way for a spiritual awakening.
They did. This event at the waters of Sebus, it wasn't just about physical prowess.
Right.
It had a spiritual impact on those who saw it.
Yeah.
It planted these seeds of curiosity and wonder in the Lamanites.
Yeah, absolutely. Verse 38 says that Ammon slew none, save it were their leader with his sword,
Right.
and smote off as many of their arms as were lifted against him, and they were not a few.
So it was controlled power,
Yeah.
a message that he could have taken their lives, but he chose mercy.
Can you imagine being King Lamoni,
Oh, yeah.
receiving this bizarre offering from your new servant, the man who just single-handedly defended your flocks?
He had to be stunned.
He must have been utterly stunned.
Yeah. His reaction in the following verses is just complete astonishment and bewilderment.
This incident starts a chain of events that ultimately leads to Lamoni's conversion and the conversion of many of his people.
It's a perfect example of how the Lord can work through seemingly ordinary circumstances to bring about extraordinary results.
And Ammon's humility, his willingness to serve his courage in the face of danger.
All of that.
All of those things paved the way for a spiritual awakening among the Lamanites.
And let's not forget the faith of Ammon's brothers,
Right.
who were also out there facing their own challenges, spreading the gospel in their unique ways.
Each of them had their own unique experiences.
Their stories, too,
Yeah.
are filled with examples of divine intervention and perseverance and the transforming power of the Word of God.
It's a reminder that each of us has a unique mission to fulfill,
Absolutely.
a way in which we can share our faith and make a difference in the world.
Exactly. And like the sons of Mosiah, we may face opposition. We may encounter those who are hostile to our message.
Sure.
But if we remain steadfast in our faith,
Right.
seek divine guidance, and act with courage and humility, we can be instruments in the Lord's hands.
Makes you think about the ripple effect of their actions. The sons of Mosiah weren't just preaching words.
Right.
They were living examples of faith in action.
Embodying the principles they were teaching.
Their courage, their humility, their willingness to sacrifice everything for their beliefs.
Right.
It's inspiring.
It really is.
Makes you ask yourself, what sacrifices are we willing to make for our faith?
Right.
Are we willing to step outside our comfort zones to reach out to those who may be different from us?
Yeah.
To share our beliefs even when we know they might not be well received?
It's a challenging question,
It is.
but one worth considering.
Yeah, the sons of Mosiah show us that even when surrounded by opposition, we can make a difference.
Absolutely.
Our actions, no matter how small they may seem, can have a lasting impact.
It's true. Sometimes even the smallest act of service can open someone's heart to the gospel.
Yeah, that's what we see with Ammon.
Exactly.
And something else that stands out is the importance of seeking divine guidance.
Oh, yeah.
Just as the sons of Mosiah did. They constantly prayed for the Lord's Spirit to be with them, to guide their steps and give them strength.
That's a key takeaway from their story.
It is.
We, too, can find comfort and direction in prayer, knowing that the Lord is always there to help us. Just like he answered the sons of Mosiah's prayers in verse 10.
Right.
He'll answer ours as well.
He will.
He'll give us the strength and guidance we need to fulfill our own missions, whatever they may be.
Their story is a testament to the power of faith, to change hearts, to overcome obstacles, and to bring light into the darkest of places.
It's a story that continues to inspire and challenge us to live our faith more fully, to be more courageous in sharing our beliefs, and to trust in the Lord's power to work through us.
Just like those sons of Mosiah trusted in the Lord and went forth with faith and courage, we can too.
The world needs that faith and courage now more than ever.
Thank you for joining us for this inspiring look at the sons of Mosiah. We hope their example has inspired you to deepen your own faith and to consider how you can make a difference in the world around you. Please follow our podcast and subscribe for more discussions like these. Thanks for listening.